Hello and welcome. You're watching the Rise News channel. Over the next 1 hour, I will be bringing you all the top stories from across Africa. I'm Ni Weilo. This is Africa News Hour. First, our top stories. Ethiopia's next leader named Abiy Ahmed to become the country's new prime minister. Kenya fails to produce Miguna for court hearing. And in sports, Nigeria's unbeaten run comes to an end against Serbia. Good to have you. Ethiopia's ruling coalition now has a new leader from the country's Oromo ethnic group. Oromo has for some time now been at the center of nearly 3 years of anti-government protest. Abiy Ahmed was elected with more than 60% of the vote, according to state-affiliated media. A vote paves the way for him to take over from Haile Mariam Desalegn, who resigned as prime minister last month. Ethiopia is currently under a state of emergency. Now, general elections will be held in Nigeria on 16 February 2019. Already various aspirants are springing up to vie for the presidency. One of such aspirants is 35-year-old Adamu Garba, who is the CEO of Lagos-based IPI Solutions Nigeria Limited. The Adamu-born recently declared interest to contest for the presidency in 2019. Mr. Garba joins me now in the studio. It's good to have you with us.
Good to have you. Thank you very much.
Why the presidency? You're so young, you could have tried the local government, the state governorship race. So why the top job?
Yes, the issue is the program we are anchoring to fix Nigeria's many challenges is called structural reform. And this is something you can only do when you sit at the presidency. The problem we have in the country is not really an isolated challenge that can be sorted out at the local level. It's actually a comprehensive problem. The system, the making and the constitution of the entire country's governance system needs a complete overhaul. We need to unbundle the economy so that it can work for almost everybody within the country. If you look at how now our governors used to do every month, they go to Abuja to collect a share of money. You can't fix this problem until you sit at the presidency. When we are contesting on the platform on creating a supply line, building our supply lines in a supply chain defined world order where we are currently, it's going to be very difficult for you to actually fix this country if you sit on a certain level. For instance, if I said I'm going for a governor in my state, I need Taraba State to be fixed, I need Gombe State to be fixed, I need Borno to be fixed before I can stabilize my economy. So there is interconnectivity between the chains of the country. Now, what makes country work is when you build supply line around all of them, because there are some things that one section of the country that has that the only that can be supplied from another side of the country. So you need to structurally reform the economy, unbundle the economy, and open the entire country to work for everybody as opposed to working for the few that we are currently doing. You only pack mineral resources, export them out, and then bring the money into the CBN at the mercy of politicians. This cannot solve the country's numerous challenges. We need to build a lot of infrastructure to be able to connect our supply line, to address our institutional void, which is the gap between the buyer and the seller in the country that is making us even more poorer. So these are a lot of things that we need to do, and that is why I feel like until I'm sitting on the presidency, I'm lying to people. Because if you look into the country as it is now, we have very interesting senators that are making very important points in the National Assembly, but it just stays there. You just make noise and then that's it. At the end of the day, you also collect your share. If you see governors, there are some governors that have very interesting ideas in how to fix country. But once they sit at the center, they don't perform again, simply because the entire system is designed in such a way that it will not enable any political leader to actively perform to meet the needs of the country. And that is why I feel like presidency is the only solution to...
So there has to be dynamism in that aspect. That's exactly what you're looking at.
Yes,
so
yes.
Now, I'm sure a whole lot of people would like to know, what platform are you going to be, standing in for the elections?
It may surprise a lot of people, but I'm coming under APC.
Why APC?
Yeah, because, if you want to fix the country, if we want to address all the issues that we have, the identity crisis, the supply line challenges, the joblessness, and all other things, we need to preserve our precious institutions. Part of the precious institutions are our democratic institutions. If you check from the First Republic of Nigeria, the same political parties are the same parties that metamorphose into what gives the Second Republic. The same political parties metamorphose into Third Republic, and now we have the republic that we are, which is the Fourth Republic. It's the same political parties. So I don't believe that the entire political party structure is bad in Nigeria. What I believe is the people inside the political party are making it look bad. So if we truly want to win election, we have to associate with the platforms that are actually carrying out the institutional history of our democracy, which I believe the APC and the PDP have this relevant history. So we cannot altogether see APC because of PDP, because these guys are bad, they've stole, they do this, they do that, and then we stay from the pathway and start pointing fingers and then say that they are bad and then we need to go to another party. We are not doing the right thing for the country's history. We need to preserve our precious monument by putting the right people inside those platforms. So if we truly want to make change, you start from political parties. And the second thing again is, my own candidacy is not on the premise of becoming the president for the young people and all these young ideas, because I have a superior manifesto that I believe if APC adopt that manifesto, is going to transform the entire country, especially under my leadership. And that is why our contesting is not for the young, but for everybody. I don't want to confront. I'm not confronting our elders. I believe there are serious, responsible people among them. I believe that we can disagree in the same parlor as a common people than when I stay from outside the window and start pointing fingers at my elders. I believe that the best solution for us to do is to sit down together and address our country's governance challenges. And I believe the APC, we've seen their primary election during 2015. It was relatively transparent. So we are looking at a very good primary election. And we, the young generation of Nigeria, actually met those parties. Okay. Why are we running away from them? Right. Why can't we start from the political party platform? So that is why I feel like going into APC is the right thing to do right now.
Now, critics will argue that you don't have the political experience at 35,
yes,
and you're probably going to be against heavyweights who have been in politics for some time now. So what do you say to that?
Yes, what
especially
I say
within the party APC
exactly
itself.
It's true. What I say to that is they should check themselves. They should look into what they have been doing since the time they've been leading this country. And they should look into the damages that the country is going into. They should look into the blood that is becoming cheaper in the country. They should look into the joblessness that is happening. They should look into all the challenges. It is obviously stating that their understanding of the model of statecraft is outdated. There is need for the entire paradigm shift in the system of governance of the country. The people that have been leading us in this country are the kind of people that are shaped by certain ideology that has gone extinct in the political arena. Because most at times their thinking is around security first, protectionist first, define world order. When we are going to a borderless, free border and supply chain, define one order. We cannot continue to be led by people that have leftist, Leninist, populist ideology. It is time for liberalization and opening of the economy. It is time for young people to get into the system and begin to define and shape the country to work in the interest of the 21st century fourth industrial revolution requirement. So this is why they know, as I know, as we know, that is very evident and clear that what they are doing, the approach they are doing to governance has not been working, and therefore it is natural, if they truly love this country, to allow the right thing to be done.
All right, Adamu, I would like your thoughts on integration. Yes. You have a nation of 250 ethnic groups with divergent views. How do you hope to unite all of them in view of what's been happening recently?
Yes. The problem is, you see, since independence, when British came and drew a line, British drew a line to define an economic entity, not a country defined by natural border. Nigeria is not defined by natural border. It's defined as an economically integrated unit because of the economic value of the country. We have massive population. During slave trade, over 12 million slaves were exported through the Bight of Biafra and Bight of Benin in Nigeria. Now, we have a lot of resources in terms of cocoa, which British acquired during their industrialization, in terms of cotton, in terms of groundnut, in terms of palm kernel. That is why they drew this line and called this entity Nigeria. Coupled with the fact that we have some strategic advantages. We have River Niger flowing within our hinterland. We have River Benue. We have a shoreline about 853 miles that is large. So this is a very strategic to British advantage. When they pull out and give us independence, the leaders, though very patriotic and responsible leaders, when they took over the governance of the country, they did not focus on the economy, which is the main reason why we are together. They focused on the politics part of it. The regional parties came to form the center. So there is no deliberate effort to unite the country as a common entity. There is always about, let me take my share and take to my region, because their allegiance, then the leaders, primarily was to their region. And that is why part of our manifesto is to come up with a deliberate 2-year campaign to define the principle of what is to be a Nigeria.
You keep saying a manifesto. Is it your manifesto or the APC's manifesto?
It's actually, the APC have a manifesto. When I look into the manifesto of the APC, up, down, I believe there is a complete reformation that is required in that manifesto, because most of the content of the manifesto within the APC structure currently is not more than we are going to build roads. This cannot define a comprehensive proposition. I want to see how and what are you going to do, and what do you need to connect the dots to give me that road, and why? What do you think when you build this road is going to do? You know, I don't want to hear, I want to create jobs by them putting Npower. Npower cannot give you job. What gives job is the private organizations, the enterprise, the business organizations. Why can't you create enabling policy to power them so that they can hire more and then produce more and then get more consumption and then keep production and then enable the economy? So I believe the entire manifesto of the APC structure is an issue. And that is why it is very important for us to go in and holistically revolve around this manifesto to fully fix the country. And one of the reasons why I even choose that party is because I am not contesting to fight my aggression or to point anger at someone. No, I believe the problem we're having in the country is a system. It's a systematic problem. No matter how sincere and good you are, we have good, responsible, and sincere people within the APC. They are in government, but unfortunately, the system cannot allow them to go. And all of us are shaped by design. And that is why, if you want to win and do the right thing, it is very important for you to go to where you need to win. So I do not want negative energy to drag me into election. Pointing fingers, fighting people, attacking people, calling names. I don't want negative energy. I want a positive energy because I'm contesting to win the election. And that is why I'm going there.
Very good, Adam. Now, in a democracy, there has to be checks and balances. Would you say, in terms of the opposition now, based on what you just said, have they lived up to expectations? It's only one voice we hear most of the time out of a party of like almost 80 of them at the moment now.
That's true.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yes,
And are there, criticisms constructive enough?
Yes,
based on what is happening
the
at the moment?
criticisms are mostly are negative criticisms. We want Goodluck Jonathan out at all costs, and then we throw him out and then bring another party. Why do we want him out? Because he's a bad guy. We want a good guy. This does not give you the right candidate. The right candidate can only be gotten when you have constructive approach to what you need to do, that you think the current system is not working. Then you get there and do it. Now, and our political parties, all of them are not shared by ideologies. I pitched myself even with APC after researching almost all other political parties. And I discovered most of the political parties, not all of them, most of them, I discovered that they are mostly offshoot of the APC and the PDP at the end of the day. So the APC will, so they are not shaped by ideology. There are three words that shaped party ideology that each party needs to have. That once you connect them together, you naturally, even in your own home, within your family, you will see that, okay, I actually naturally belong to this. That's why you see in an advanced democracy like the United States, people are just born to be in a certain party because that's actually what shapes their ideology. You have order, you have stability, you have justice and equality. Now, for you to become a Republican, you have to favor order and stability. And for you to be a Democrat, you have to favor justice and equality. And that is why during Obama, you will see they are talking about gay rights, and we need democracy in every country. Yeah. During Trump or Republicans, you don't hear that again. You hear about order. No, this country about, let's try to remove these things and change it this way. Yeah. And then you now also favor stability, businesses, let people grow, let this, let that. So this is actually what shapes party ideology. And then from there, you can now have center left, center right, and then far left, and far, all those kind of things. Within them, you can create them. But our political parties are not shaped by ideology at all. They are just a group of people coming together with the sole aim, and that aim is take power. Why do we need the power? We need to share money that is coming from the NNPC. And this is where the problem is. That is why you see whenever they got in there, the only thing is, let's share what we have. Now we are on the table, where is my share of the pie? And this is the problem. Nobody is driven by ideology, and that is why we don't have the right constructive criticism, because all criticism about this government is bad, we want to go and fix it. And this is a problem. This is also one of the things we need to do, which we are proposing as part of our political party reform. Because I don't believe, even if I win through the APC, I don't believe we can abandon the opposition. Because there are institutions that can build our ideology, and the institutions that we're supposed to build tomorrow's leaders. So therefore, we will have to reform them, make them stronger, and then put them in front to produce better leaders for the future of the country.
Very good. On that note, Adamu Garba, presidential aspirant, would like to thank you for being a part of the program today, and also wish you good luck on your quest.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you.
you.
Appreciate me. Thank
All
you
right.
very much. Yeah.
Still to come on African News Hour. Kenya fails to produce Miguna for court hearing. Details in a moment. Stay with us.
Thinking of banking in Africa? Then think Zenith, one of the biggest in Nigeria, with assets over $16 billion, listed among the 20 most influential brands in the world, and winner of Best Bank in Corporate Governance. The most customer-focused bank in Nigeria, a success built on 3 foundations, dedicated to people, technology, service. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
Good to have you back on African News Hour. I'm Ni Weilo. Nigeria's Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, has asked the People's Democratic Party to complete its apology to Nigerians by returning all the funds allegedly looted from the public treasury during its 16 years in power. Earlier, my colleague Charles Anyagolu had a chat with PDP spokesman Kola Olobodinyo on this. He started by asking him to clarify why the PDP is apologizing to Nigerians.
I need to first elaborate on the reasons for our apology. We, the People's Democratic Party, is apologizing to Nigerians for allowing a movement of a people who had no plan, who had no structure, to take over the reign of governance and misrule our people.
Yeah, but that's not why you apologized.
That is. I just gave you.
Your chap Secondus made it.
Our chairman.
Your chairman, absolutely clear that you were apologizing for the mistakes of your time in office.
Of our time in office, essentially, when he spoke about that, he was talking about the national chairman, President Secondus, was talking about alleged impunity in government, in our administration, and alleged...
So you're saying alleged impunity. If he's apologizing, then it means he's acknowledged
impunity,
that there was impunity. So it's not alleged.
Impunity during our reign,
okay, and
imposition of candidates during our tenure in government, particularly as it concerns our party. These were the reasons he had used. But I'm telling you that furthermore, to those two reasons, that we are also apologizing to Nigerians for allowing a movement that had no plan, that had no structure, to take over the reign of governance.
So basically, you're not really apologizing to the Nigerian people. You're seizing the opportunity, excuse me, you're seizing the opportunity to garner some political capital from your apology.
I would not agree with you.
I thought that was an unequivocal apology.
I will not agree with you, Mr. Charles. I have said that we have apologized to Nigerians for impunity while we were in government and for imposition while our party was in reign of governance. And I said, beyond this, we have also apologized that we allow a movement to take over the reign of government in Nigeria.
Right. When you say imposition, what do you mean?
What I meant is that in time past, the People's Democratic Party did allow some manipulations in the political process, particularly as it had to do with our internal democracy.
And what about corruption, which of course is a big allegation hanging over the PDP's head?
It is not only over PDP head.
No, we're not saying about other people. We're talking about the PDP.
Yes.
I said, what about corruption?
Our party,
are you going to apologize?
Our party has come out new. Those who participated in corruption in our party have moved to the All Progressives Congress. And as such, our party has come out clean. We are a new party.
I don't understand what you mean by your party has come out clean. I mean, there are allegations that are still trailing your people. There are people from your party who are still in detention today.
None.
As a result of the fact that...
Mr. Charles, none from our party that's in detention today in respect of allegation. Can you give me one name?
Well, you have the guy who was the... quite a number of people. I mean,
just give me one.
The former National Security Advisor was linked to your party.
Yes.
He was part of your party.
Yes, he was linked to our party, you are correct.
No, he is part of your party.
Yes.
I mean, most people at that time had to be members of the PDP in order to qualify to be able to be part of this impunity that you're talking about.
Yes.
I mean, he's somebody who still have charges hanging over his head. You've got
I love the word charges.
Of course they are charges.
In our country, Nigeria, until you are convicted, you cannot be said to be a convict.
No, that's pretty straightforward.
And as I speak with you, the fact that you have charges hanging over your head, but you have not been convicted, does not make you guilty.
Yeah,
do you agree to that?
No, absolutely.
So charges does not necessarily mean
I understand
guilt.
that, but we also know that the reasons, that there are a lot of other collateral reasons why prosecutions have not yet been completed. Part of it is the challenge of putting forward an effective prosecution in Nigeria because of the way oftentimes that the judiciary is manipulated, and also because, hold on a second, and also because of the challenges that the judiciary faces in Nigeria, the practical logistical challenges that make it impossible to complete a successful prosecution. I am not saying...
Are you asking me a question or you are expressing an opinion?
No, what I'm saying is that
are you asking me a question? Are you asking me a question or you are expressing an opinion?
We're having a chat. We're having a discussion.
Good.
I'm not saying...
So these are your expressions, these are your opinions.
I am not saying that that necessarily means that the people who've been arraigned are guilty.
Clearly.
All I'm saying is that you and I know that there are innumerable reasons why prosecutions are not completed in Nigeria, beyond just whether or not somebody is guilty or not.
I guess I was invited here to discuss the issues
that's what we're doing.
that concern the apology that was offered by the national chairman. That was offered by the national chairman of my party. I didn't know that I came here to come and discuss the procedures in the judiciary.
No.
I didn't prepare myself for that. And I will not engage. I will not engage in blame game with the judiciary.
I think you're a very articulate person, and I think you perfectly understand what I'm talking about. But let's move on.
Okay.
When you say you're rendering an apology to Nigerians, members of the ruling APC party are also Nigerians. Are you including them in your apology? Because as you correctly identified, maybe not you directly, but your party, you left behind, and most Nigerians, I think, will agree that that is the case. You left a midden of rotten practice behind, which the ruling APC party inherited and has essentially been trying to clean up the PDP, the mess that the PDP left behind.
Mr. Charles, I do not agree with you that we left a rotten...
No, I said a midden of rotten practice.
A midden of rotten practice.
Well, you admit to... you did admit to some of them.
I do not agree with you.
But do you admit to some?
I think you are being harsh on my party.
No. With all due respect...
With all due respect, I would not accept that.
With all due respect, if the APC was here, I would take as hard a line against them as I am taking against you.
I don't know how much of Nigeria you know.
I know a lot about Nigeria.
And I don't know how much of Nigerian system you understand.
I totally understand.
But if you surely do, Mr. Charles,
right,
you will agree with me that the economy we have in the nation today was not what the PDP left behind. You will agree with me that the bloodletting that we have all over the federation, all over the sphere of our nation today, was not what PDP left behind. So it is unexpected of you to come and say that we left a rotten system. How do you mean?
No. I am saying that. Do you include the ruling APC party in those you're apologizing to?
We have apologized to Nigerians. Mr. Charles, let me quickly
tell you. But they're Nigerians.
No, I said we have apologized to Nigerians.
Right.
But let me quickly tell you something,
right.
Mr. Charles. I want you to know that our apology, like I said, concerned the issue of impunity, concerned the issue of imposition, and also concerned the fact that by our mistakes, we allow a movement that had no plan or structure of governance to come and take over the reign of government.
Right.
That's the point we are making.
Right.
And I want to be limited to that, sir.
Right. So now that you've apologized for the things that you've admitted to, because obviously this is selective synchronization. I mean, you're admitting to certain things and not admitting to others. Mm-hmm. What do you expect from Nigerians? Having made this apology, can I just finish? Do you expect Nigerians to say, okay, we forgive you and let's hand over power back to you?
No, it's not about handing over power. You see, that's why I say I do not understand how much of our system here that you understand.
No, but I'm asking
because if you say hand over power back to us, what of the electioneering?
No, that's what I mean. Obviously, what I mean is for them to vote you back into office.
Thank you, that is appropriate.
Obviously, yes. I mean, that's pretty obvious.
Yes, sir. To allow, what we have done as a party is that we have rebranded. We are a new set of people. As I speak to you, the echelon of our party, which is the National Working Committee, as we speak today, is constituted by 70 to 80% of freshers. People who never had anything to do in the party with the past. And we are saying that we have rebranded and we have repositioned the party, and we are urging Nigerians to come into the party and allow it to start anew, afresh, a new life. and should be trusted with power. Once again, that's the direction of thought in our party.
Right, okay. Let's go beyond that, because we have to be fair in all our assessment. That's what we try to do here on Arise News. Let's talk about some of the specific issues that Nigerians take against the PDP party. One of them, for example, is the issue of Boko Haram and security, okay? When you were in office, Boko Haram controlled 14 local governments in Nigeria. They had their flags mounted, and they had taken over governance of those local governments, okay? Can I just finish the question?
Okay, finish the question.
Now, you were unable to dislodge Boko Haram. When the current government of President Buhari came into office, up to this, at this point, as I'm speaking to you, there is not one single local government, and I have just returned from Dachi, from Maiduguri, from Damaturu in Yobe State. We went on a tour of the place, okay? Not one single local government is in the hands of Boko Haram.
I do not agree with some of your assertions, and I must make that clear to you.
That's your prerogative.
Before we left office in 2015, we had contained the Boko Haram insurgency to some parts of the northeast.
But they were still controlling local governments.
Excuse me, please. They were not controlling.
You hadn't managed to dislodge
They were not controlling the local.
You had not managed to dislodge them.
But do you agree with me that we had contained them?
Well, I don't know. Contain is a fairly elastic term.
Do you agree with me that we had contained the
But what do you mean by contained?
Okay. When insurgency began in Nigeria,
right,
there were rippling effects in the north central and in the northwest and in the northeast.
Right.
But before we left office, before the PDP government left office in 2015, Boko Haram insurgency had been contained towards the northeast.
Well,
and what I meant by that is that the hoisting of flag had begun to cease. And you must agree to that.
Well,
and since we were voted out in 2015, you cannot charge us to come and take over the responsibility of the succeeding government.
Understood.
And you cannot hold us accountable for the failure of the incoming government. So the point I'm making to you, Mr. Charles, and I urge you to listen to me, please, is that you cannot blame us for whatever happened after May 29, 2015.
We're not blaming you.
So what we have done, what we did as a party in government was that, yes, it was strange to us. It was unexpected. We're not aware that insurgents can come into our country and operated even in Abuja City. But we also worked assiduously to ensure that we took them back to where they were coming from.
Okay,
we're pushing them further out of the country.
Can I make this point? I was here in 2015. I covered the elections. Arise News was in this same hotel, and I anchored that. Yes. We went all around the place. We interviewed a lot of people, PDP, and so on and so forth. And the fact is this: you postponed the election, which was supposed to take place early in 2015. You put it off. The reason you put it off was because you ostensibly were trying to contain the threat of Boko Haram, because the Electoral Commission was simply unable to hold elections in many parts of the Northeast. And therefore, can I make the point? And therefore, it was felt that you had to put in more effort in order to create, you know, the correct environment for elections to take place in those parts. So really, the work that you did was in the last 3 months of your time in office. That's a fact. This is not a...
Mr. Charles.
It's not a... It's not a...
Mr. Charles.
Yes.
I wished somebody who is a member of the APC had asked me this question.
Well, I'm not a member of the APC.
But since I'm not a member of the APC...
I'm an objective journalist, and I'm stating facts to you.
Since I'm not a member of the APC, the question I had wanted to ask the APC member...
but you haven't answered the question.
No, I'm going there.
You're talking about answering... you haven't answered your own
Charles, I will respond to you.
Right, okay. Well, we don't have that much time, so we need to
I will respond to you. I will respond to you.
Yeah.
But the issue is this. If there were no election in some part of the Northeast, how did President Muhammadu Buhari garner the votes he got in the Northeast.
No. What I'm saying to you...
No.
Well,
how did he garner the
I
votes?
I asked you a
that were
question,
declared?
you countered it with another question.
How did President Muhammad... You came up here, you said to me that in some parts of the Northeast, there was no election.
No, but...
That's what you said.
No. That's not what I said.
Okay, what did you say?
What I said was that the PDP postponed the election.
Because they were
is that not a fact? The reason that you gave...
And you went
the reason you gave was because you wanted to have a more reflective election across the whole of the country.
Yes.
You needed to secure the Northeast to a point where elections could be held successfully.
Yes, can you round up the question?
No, I'm asking you, is that not a fact?
Don't change the line of your question.
But is that not a fact?
Don't change the line of your question. Don't change the line of your question. You did say to me that in some parts of the Northeast, there were no elections. You said that.
No, that's not what I said.
What did you say?
I said that the election was put off, was postponed by the PDP in order to allow for credible elections. No, I said for credible elections to take place. And this happened 3 months before your party left office. And the reason you did that was because prior to those 3 months, most of the Northeast, in places where there was going to be voting and so on, at least 14 local governments have been overrun by Boko Haram. That's a fact.
Are you saying that there were no elections in those 14 local governments?
I am saying that subsequent to your postponement...
So you agree with me that eventually, after the postponement for a week, that an enabling environment was created to allow election to hold, and President Muhammadu Buhari won elections in those areas. That's the statement of fact.
The point is that we're not going to reach any point of...
That's a statement of fact. Election held in those local governments.
Eventually they
Which means that there were no flags being hosted in those local governments.
Right, okay.
Which means that to a large extent, PDP's government was able to drive off Boko Haram from those local governments. Okay. You agree to that?
Very quickly.
You agree to that?
Very quickly.
You agree to that?
Very quickly. I agree that elections took place.
Thank you very much.
Eventually.
Thank you very much.
But very quickly, because we're running out of time, just give us, first of all, your concluding statement, your reaction to what happened in Dapchi, the fact that when you were in office, the Chibok girls were taken, not one single one of them was ever released. The current government came in, almost half of them have been released, and within 5 weeks of the Dapchi girls being kidnapped, most of them are free. What is your reaction to that?
To the release of the Dapchi girls?
Yeah, the release of the Dapchi girls, as well as the release of the Chibok girls under the current presidency.
Well, as far as we are concerned, we have made our position on the release of Dapchi girls clearly.
And what is that position, briefly, because we're out of time?
And our reaction to that is that we rejoice with the parents of the Dapchi girls.
And do you commend the government? You commend the APC party for what they've done?
Why should we commend?
Well, because you couldn't. Because you couldn't achieve the same thing.
We did not commend the APC government. I will not commend the APC government on the release of Dapchi girls or on the release of anybody abducted.
That was Charles Anegulu in a very interesting and revealing chat with PDP spokesman Kayode Olobodiyam. A court hearing about the status and citizenship of Kenyan politician Miguna has been adjourned after the state failed to produce the opposition supporter. A presiding judge has also ordered the Kenyan Inspector General of Police, the Minister of Interior and a senior immigration official to appear before the court. Mr. Miguna arrived in Kenya on Monday but was detained at the airport for 2 nights after he was refused to board a flight to Dubai. He had been deported from Kenya in February after he participated in the mock swearing-in of opposition leader Raila Odinga. At the time, Kenyan officials said he did not have Kenyan citizenship and sent him to Canada, where he holds citizenship. A top Moroccan security official is divulging to the Associated Press that French intelligence had not informed his agency that a Morocco-born gunman who killed 4 people in an attack in southern France last week had been radicalized. Abdelhak Kiame, director of Morocco's Central Bureau for Judicial Investigation, says Rodwan Labdim left Morocco to live in France when he was 7 months old. He said his last visit back had been in 2012. Kiame says Morocco has absolutely no intel about Lakdim, and there has been a problem of communication between French and Moroccan services because he was a dual national. Are you still on to Africa News Hour? Business and sports news next. Stay with us. Welcome back to Africa News Hour. I'm Ni Uilo. In business, now the Federal Accounts Allocation Committee in Nigeria has resolved the NNPC revenue crisis that prevented it from dispersing allocations to the three tiers of government on Tuesday. A disagreement had occurred due to the revenue remitted into the Federation account by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC). Kemi Adeosun, Minister of Finance, waded in and reconvened the meeting for Wednesday morning. At the rescheduled meeting, the three tiers of government shared 647.39 billion naira for March. Of this amount, the federal government received 270.8 billion naira, states got 173.75 billion naira, and the 774 local government councils were allocated 130.9 billion naira. All producing states received 57.35 billion based on the 13% derivation principle, and 14.55 billion naira was returned to revenue-generating agencies as the cost of revenue collection. Before today's meeting, Nigeria's finance minister had called for an emergency meeting with the head of state-owned Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation over revenue-related accounts and payment. The meeting will be held with Maikanti Baru, Group Managing Director of the state oil firm, and senior management over revenue payment into the Federation account, and is expected to focus on what many analysts see as the very opaque bookkeeping, the need to reconcile massive accounting differences, the giant parastatal involving billions of dollars of unaudited earnings monthly. And joining me from our London studios to discuss more on this is Arise business analyst Bode Oshosa. It's good to have you with us. Not again. Another letter, this time email, this time to NNPC. Something tells me it's going to be more bad press for Nigeria's oil dinosaur. What do you say?
Well, when Reuters reported this yesterday, that there was going to be a meeting to hold next week, my understanding is that the meeting actually has held. They've had meetings, and it seems the issues have been somewhat resolved. But the initial reaction was this was just going to be another issue again with another parastatal on numbers, but apparently that is not the case. But the issue of opacity in NNPC is not yet over, and I think that's something that continually needs to be carefully watched. So definitely this trend of asking questions is the right thing to do.
Indeed. Now, we have seen this repeat itself over and over again. Committees, reports, task forces, now letters and emails. Many say the new petroleum government, or governance bureau rather, is the answer. When can Nigerians expect to see some transparency in the handling of all receipts?
Well, the Petroleum Governance Bill does help to some extent, particularly in reincorporating the National Oil Company without some of the non-commercial roles that it normally handles. And also, more importantly, incorporating it under the Companies and Allied Matters Act, which is different from operating as a parastatal. That means it will have shareholders, run meetings, and it will be... Obviously, NPC is very far from but move towards that would enable commercialization, bringing in investors who will definitely not tolerate nonsense as far as numbers are concerned. But we are still waiting for the governance bill. It's not yet out. We understand the president is still looking at it. And the other thing that you notice, if you, for example, in the United States, they have an energy information agency. Every Thursday and Wednesday, you see numbers coming out for the last week. And they have a balance sheet that everybody all over the world can see. You can see what came in, what came out. The numbers must balance. So it's easy to know how much you made, how much you didn't make, how much was exported. And all this is done within a 7-day time period with technology. Now, today, I don't think it is very, very clear exactly how much Nigeria produces and when. And the technology is already available, and given the business case, the amounts involved, it's difficult to understand why these has not been introduced in the Nigerian situation to address all these problems about numbers and reconciling figures.
Indeed, the transparency issue is still on there. Now, some analysts have said the absence of serious consequence for mismanagement of funds, poor accounting, and massive leakages, which continue, ridiculing NNPC as the ATM for politicians. Now, will Buhari's anti-corruption drive make a difference?
Well, as far as NNPC is concerned, we haven't seen much action, in my view. Just producing management accounts doesn't tell me anything. It just tells me what you want me to see. So as far as and NNPC is the most, I think, the most critical of all the parastatals. Indeed, there is more. NNPC is almost like a shadow central bank, if you really understand the financial flows. So if nothing is done to enhance anti-corruption or to establish consequence in NNPC, then I would say that there's no progress as far as the anti-corruption is concerned, at least from the oil sector. It's not yet late. We know there are so many issues that are still on the table. Remember, a former MD was found with a lot of cash. I'm not quite clear on how that ended up and so on. So it's very difficult to say there is any improvement because apart from the rhetoric, one can't really see anything that is changing in NNPC to date.
Good. Bodeo Shosami, Arise business analyst in London. Many thanks for your perspective on Nigeria's oil sector. Now, the National Assembly in Nigeria has harmonized the historic petroleum industry governance bill, PIGB. The bill was passed by the Senate after Donald Alasho Adura, senator representing Ondo Central, presented a conference committee report on the bill. Two chambers of the National Assembly set up the conference committee after the House of Representatives passed theirs on January 17th. It is expected to be sent to President Muhammadu Buhari on Friday for his assent. If the bill is signed into law, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation will be unbundled and will start running like proper business unit. Nigeria can save $3 billion annually from steel import substitution. This is according to the executive chairman of BUA Group, Abdul Samad Rabiu, who said this at the just concluded Africa CEO Forum in Abidjan. He noted this is possible by replicating protectionist measures that succeeded in the cement and sugar industry. At the same time, the same forum as well, the Africa Development Bank boss, Dr. Akiwumi Adesina, called for the immediate creation of high-technology industrial clusters focusing on factory skills and jobs for the future, as well as improving digital infrastructure. And there's more to come on African News Hour, including Nigeria's unbeaten run comes to an end against Serbia. Details in a moment. Stay with us.
Serbia Kostic with a cross, and there's the finish from Alexander.
Our customers are focused, versatile, superheroes. Our customers are also the most important people in our world. So we listen, partner, and give solutions that make a difference in their world. At First Bank, we will always put you first.
You first. First Bank.
Welcome back. You're still on to Africa News Hour. I'm Ni Uilo. Sports news now. Nigeria's unbeaten run has come to an end as they fell to Serbia 2-0 in a World Cup warm friendly in London earlier. Serbia should have been ahead going into half-time when Alexander Mitrovic's effort had crossed the line but was not given as a goal. But in the second half, Alexander made no mistake getting at the end of a cross to give the Serbians the lead. Then 10 minutes later, he finished again from close range to get his second of the night. In boxing is the clash of the heavyweight champions as Anthony Joshua and Joseph Parker have had their first press conference ahead of their March 31st clash in Cardiff. IBF, IBO, WBA and WBO world heavyweight titles will be on the line in a winner-takes-all bout. Parker's camp have been attempting to win the battle of the mind games with verbal attacks on Joshua. But the Nigerian and English champion is keeping his focus on training for the 12-round fight.
And this Saturday, I'm looking forward to putting on the best display on March 31. I'm looking forward to putting on the best, the best Joseph Parker there is. I feel ready, I feel confident, I feel sharp. My movement is better than ever. Now I'm taking those belts back to New Zealand and Samoa. I see him as a great champion. The reason why we wanted this fight is because we respect him. We respect what he's achieved in the boxing world. We respect his team and what they've been able to achieve on this side of the world. And we love challenges. And we see him as a big challenge, which is the reason why we want to fight him. And I think, we both have weaknesses, we both have strengths, and it's whoever's going to put on the best display on fight night. I'm going to beat him. I haven't decided how I want to beat him yet. I don't know if it's a knockout or if it's points or decision. I'll see how I feel on fight night.
I don't know what my weight will be because it's a blessing being a heavyweight. I haven't got to worry about that. But I do know for sure that I feel great. And not only physically, a long time. Well, let's say I've been boxing amateur and professional for 10 years now altogether. So a long time I had to rely on, my strengths, my physicalities, and so on and so forth. But over the 10 years, I've built, a lot of mental strength as well. And now I'm combining the two. I feel confident, and I really do look forward to the challenge. So you've got two sides of it. I'm definitely preparing for a 12-round fight, 110%, which isn't a problem to go the distance. But let's say I got 20 quid in my pocket and I'm looking at Joseph Parker and Anthony Joshua. I believe Anthony Joshua, myself, will knock Joseph Parker out for sure.
Boxers Parker and Joshua there. For more on these stories, let's go across to London where Arise Sports correspondent Anil Sangare joins us live. Good to have you, Anil. Now, let's start with football and Nigeria. The Super Eagles lose to Serbia. How would you analyse their performance?
Yes, hi, Nee. I thought yesterday, as we spoke about, Nigeria had some injury problems, so there were some forced changes, and I think that was reflected in the performance, particularly the defence. I think with Leon Balogun, he missed a late fitness test, and his absence, I think, added to the imbalance in the defence. And I think Serbia were well worth the victory. I thought the makeshift back line was exposed quite a few times. I think one of the positives I thought was a form of Brian Idowu. He gave a good account of himself at fullback. That's 2 good performances in a row now against Poland and Serbia, and I think he's given himself an excellent opportunity now to make the final cut, the final 23-man squad that Gernot Rohr will pick for Russia in the summer. I thought the return of Joel Obi, I thought he failed to impress. Remember, his first game in 3 years for Nigeria, the Torino midfielder. He was playing in a sort of in the hole there in the first half, and I didn't quite think he really sort of lived up to the hype of his return. So I think there were some issues for Gernot Rohr to look at. I thought they were slightly better in the game against Poland, but to be honest, I think in both these games, I think they badly missed John Obi Mikel, the Nigeria skipper, who had work permit issues, which means he could not, which means he was stranded in China. I thought Ahmed Musa, he played in that false number 9. I thought he worked hard. He was industrious. I think his form is encouraging. But I suppose the big takeaway is that from these 2 games, Nigeria only scored the 1 goal, and that will be a concern for Gernot Rohr going into Russia next summer. But again, they've only conceded 1 goal in these two games. So all in all, I think fairly satisfactory performance from Nigeria in these 2 friendlies.
All right, Anil, now overall, how would you rate Nigeria's preparations ahead of this summer's World Cup?
Well, as you mentioned, that unbeaten run has come to an end against Serbia. They've still got a few games. They've got DR Congo in May. They've got that big showpiece friendly against England at Wembley. And then their last game before the World Cup kicks off in the summer is against Czech Republic. So he's still got 3 games there, Gernot Rohr, to make some tweaks and get his team ready for that crucial opening game against Croatia. That, I think, really, almost Nigeria's whole World Cup rests on that first game, because they have games against Iceland and then, of course, Argentina. You would expect Argentina to top the group. So Nigeria have to be up and running for that first game against Croatia if they want to make it through to the round of 16. I think the form of Iheanacho is going to be crucial. Nigeria, as I said, struggling to score goals, and if they can get him firing, he missed the game against Serbia with a fractured hand. If they can get him firing, then I think Nigeria do have some options.
Very good, Anil. Now let's look at boxing. Excitement growing ahead of Anthony Joshua's fight with Tony Parker on the weekend. Briefly now.
Yes, I think excitement is building, and I think this fight, actually, I think when this fight was first announced, everyone thought, well, this is going to be a bit of an easy fight for Anthony Joshua. Everyone wants to see him fight Deontay Wilder. But actually, as the weeks have gone on and the preparation, the hype is slowly building, I think Joseph Parker could actually surprise a few. I still think that Joshua is the favourite, but even Joshua said that he thinks he will beat Parker in maybe round 8 or 9. We'll have to wait and see if Parker lives up to his promise of knocking out Joshua. I think this fight could surprise a few boxing fans. All of us, of course, hope that Anthony Joshua goes on to win. But I think Joshua could be faced with a pretty stern test on Saturday. All right,
Neil Sangara, sports correspondent in London, many thanks for your thoughts on the Parker-Joshua fight. You've been watching Africa News Hour with me, Nii Oilo. Please keep it here on Rise News, and from the entire team here in Lagos and London. Goodbye, and thanks for being there.